you hear about what is it called? Rich kids trust funds, or how like there's like usually a generation gap, like one generation works really hard and then the kids like are spoiled and then they waste it all. And I've always been so defensive around that. It's like because you know, actually, I started to get defensive around it when we first moved to this house. Because before that, I mean, we lived in an apartment. Like my brother and I shared a room. It was small. Like we didn't have money. And then as my parents built it up, like then we lived in more of like a regular house, and then we lived in this really nice house. And I remember like sometimes like friends in middle school or whatever being like, "Oh, you're rich." Oh, and then we owned these stores that I worked in all the time. But I remember customers being like, like just I didn't like being seen as rich because I felt like because I could feel what was the implication. It wasn't just like, oh, you're well off, that's great. It was like, you're lazy, I'm jealous, or you know you don't know how to work hard. And I was so aware of like how hard my parents worked and how hard I always worked that I felt really defensive about it. Like, I'm not this spoiled little princess. Like I just realized like I'm still doing that. I still like when I remember when I was hanging out with the guests at the Airbnb. I felt like I was assuming, oh, they're probably like, oh, you're an artist, and your parents have this big house, like that must be nice, and feeling like I didn't want them to think that way. And then I was like, who cares what people fucking think? I mean, and first of all, it's true. Like if my parents made things easier for me, like that's fucking awesome. Like why should I be ashamed of that? Um and if people assume that that means I have no work ethic or that I'm spoiled, so be it. It's not my job to prove other people's judgments is right or wrong, you know? And I I realize I've been defensive about that because I've been questioning it in myself. Like, am I being lazy? Am I just, like I'm not doing my duty of building up my parents' wealth and instead I'm just like letting it run to the ground. I'm not doing my filial duty. And just anyway, you get the point. It's like the same old story, right? It's like it's a lack thing and feeling like I'm not worthy because I'm not contributing in the like conventional way yet. Um so yeah, what I realized is it's up to me to see the value of what I'm doing and who I am. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, including my parents. Um, I was doing this, during a meditation yesterday, I realized that I could feel my mother's energy like on one side of my body. And it was like both a block, like blocking my ability to feel, or to express because her energy is right in front of me. And at the same time, it's also protection. And again, it hit me that the very thing that I have been kind of struggling against, like, which is the way my parents view things, like, or the way my mom can be controlling, or, you know, um, was something that I was also um, allowing and that I wanted. Part of me we allow energies to block us, right? Again, it's like the idea of the cocoon. The very thing that we think is like blocking us or keeping us from growing is what's helping us grow until we can liberate ourselves from it completely. And this energy of my mother, which is, yeah, I talk about in a poem. I'll include it below. It's like just the complexity of the mother-daughter relationship, of how we want to emulate our mothers and at the same time feel limited by them, how we measure ourselves up against them because they are our model women, even if consciously we don't want that, or we don't believe that. And they're also our model of love. You know, it's how we see, it's our first experience of relationship. So yeah, that's a lot to hold. And I could see that when I was, I mean, I've always like, you know, working on releasing the patterns of my parents from my body and from my energy field. I think, as everyone is, you know, as we're all living in this way of like, you know, creating our own identity from what we are given from our parents. And but that day, yesterday, I realized that there was when I was releasing that energy, there was a part of me that was very afraid. And that's how I knew that, like, I can say, like, I want to be my own person, and like, I'm independent, and I'm tired of like these patterns that I've, you know, inherited, and I want to be free. But there's a big part of me that's been afraid, because I'm used to that protection. You know, it can feel like a block sometimes. It can feel like a limitation, but it also is protection, right? It's just like the walls around your heart, you know, whatever it is for you, like the very things that we, you know, we want to experience, like full on joy and deep love and intimacy, and yet we're afraid because it also means that we're going to experience pain. And so with me and my mom's energy, it's like, yeah, I want to be fully expressed and like not be held back by the same things that held her back, you know? And yet I'm also afraid of what that means. And yeah, of being really exposed to the world and really showing the world who I am, and also really letting myself feel the world as myself, you know? So it's, yeah, stepping up and becoming my own mother. And, you know, I actually, there's a part of me that feels ashamed even saying this. Like, I'm 37 years old. Like, you're still working with this, you know? But I believe we work with it all our lives, you know? This book, My Mother and Myself, I mean, this is also a grown woman. She's writing this book and just saying how it's our first love, you know? And so, and, you know, our mother, again, is the embodiment of the Divine Mother. She is like probably the closest thing we will to experience the Divine Mother, like in form, until we release her, you know, until we release her from all of our expectations and disappointments, and the job and the role of being our protector and our provider and our model, and release her so that we can really become intimate with the Divine Mother, the Greater Mother that really can hold all of us, you know, and also embody it in ourselves.